Happy holidays. It's the end of the year, so the numbers are in. Let's take a look. It's The Real Estate Show. Welcome to The Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I am the owner-broker of Zone Realty LLC. You zone your home. Well, every year the National Association of Realtors does a statistical report, and they take a look at what's going on with buyers and sellers when it comes to the housing market. Now, this particular report has come out as an interesting time because, as you know, in 2020, we went through all the COVID stuff. And in 2021, we've gone through mortgage rate increases. So how has that overall affected the housing market? Now, I want to say this. National Association of Realtors does a survey, and it's a spot survey just to kind of get a taste of what's going on. They send out a paper survey and get these responses back from people who have just purchased homes or sellers who have just sold homes, plus some opinions in general from buyers and sellers in the market. It's not necessarily reflective of your local market. For that, you can contact a local realtor. However, these numbers are a pretty good sign of what's going on in the country at that particular time. And these numbers are reflective of October 2020 through October 2021. So let's take a look at these numbers and what are they telling us? First of all, buyers out there. What's happening with the buyers? What is their response to these interest rates going up and COVID and housing prices going insane and so on and so forth? The numbers are pretty interesting. What the report is showing is it's showing that first-time buyers are still the biggest group of folks out there that are feeling the effects of the changes in the market. First-time buyers have always found it hard to come up with down payments in order to purchase a house. And when you combine that now with the interest rates being so high, it's made it very difficult. In fact, a lot of first-time buyers are reporting they feel squeezed out of the market. So how are they going to remedy that? Well, we know that the economy is showing that jobs are pretty strong right now at this particular time of year. But we are theoretically headed into a recessionary period. So is that going to change anything for the buyer out there? It was found that when the National Association of Realtors was comparing numbers from the previous year to the current year, they found that first-time buyers, as far as a percentage of overall buyers, had dropped. And it dropped just for the reasons that I've stated. They're stating that they're having issues with the interest rates being so high. In other words, affordability of homes that they wish to buy. Sellers, on the other hand, are finding that they can't get as high a price as maybe they could have gotten just a few months ago on their homes. Buyers are being shy about buying into the market at this particular time. But does that overall mean that you can't still buy a house? Well, what I'm getting from the report when I'm reading through it is there are folks out there that still have the ability to purchase a home, even with the interest rates as high as they are. But there's more reliance on getting help or combining buying power together. I'll give you an example. If you have, for instance, siblings in a family, they may pool their resources together and go together on one house, maybe a little larger than what they would buy individually, to accommodate their two families. By pooling their incomes and resources together, they find they have the ability, even with the interest rates being a little higher, to purchase a home. Another thing we're starting to see come back is gifts that have no attachment to it. In other words, we're seeing relatives start to pool up money to help people purchase a home of their own. Now, this could be monies that come from mom and dad, or grandpa and grandpa, or brother and sister, or uncle and aunt, or wherever the monies may be coming from. There's monies that become available that they give as a so-called gift to the buyer to use for their closing costs or perhaps help with their down payment. Now, let's be careful about gifts, folk. Gifts are exactly that. When somebody gives money to someone else, they're not expecting it to be paid back. And the banks will make them sign a form that states, this is a gift to so-and-so, and I'm not expecting it. It's not encumbered, or it's not an obligation. Because you see, if it's a loan, then the bank's got to count that when it comes to debt-to-income analysis, when they're trying to qualify some from a mortgage. So we don't want that. Another thing that we're seeing that buyers are doing is they're buying a little bit, and I want to be careful on how I word this, they're buying a little bit underneath what their capabilities could be to purchase a home. In other words, because the interest rates have gone up, and because there's limited resources of money available for down payment, sometimes someone may look to buy a home that needs a little bit more help than buying a move-in condition home. Perhaps they'll buy a few $1,000s less than what they might have qualified for. Now, why would somebody buy less than what they qualify for? Well, the survey is showing that a lot of folks feel that by buying a gently used house that doesn't need a lot of repairs, they can get a better price. On the other hand, some folks still want to buy a brand new house for the reason of not having to do any repairs. So again, the buyers are out there still looking for the best bargain they possibly could get that's affordable to them. Let's take a look at these numbers on this first part of highlights, and I'll be back to talk a little bit more about what the National Association of Realtors report is showing us. One of the interesting things that's coming out of the report is where people are shopping for a house. We're finding that people are actually looking further away than they were in the past. The report had showed an interesting statistic where buyers usually were buying homes within a 15-mile circuit of where they were presently living. And a lot of the reasons were they wanted to be closer to schools or their church or family or whatever their reason might be. But statistically, they were staying within about 15 miles to kind of, I guess, be in the same neighborhood area. But now the report is showing that buyers are extending that area and they're buying as well as far as 50 miles away. And this basically is being caused because there's so little inventory out there of homes to purchase. People are looking in wider areas. They're looking to other towns. They may even look at other states. It's kind of interesting to see how the shift is going as far as what people are doing when it looks to buy a home. Now, what are people actually buying? What kind of houses are they actually trying to buy? Well, again, year after year, we show that buyers seem to want to buy detached single-family homes. Those are the top of the list. There are some buyers out there that do look to buy homes that are within duplexes or triplexes or so on and so forth, or even condos. But the detached single-family home is still the most popular home that buyers are looking to buy. Now, what do they want in a home? Well, again, statistically, year after year, it's showing that the most popular detached homes have at least 3 bedrooms and 1.5 or 2 bathrooms. Bathrooms seem to be on the top of the list when it comes to buyers looking for a home. As far as sizes, well, sizes have increased just slightly. And again, this might be back to what I originally was saying about people pooling their resources together to purchase a home. They're buying bigger houses. Now, when you buy a bigger house, you also have to keep in mind that it is going to cost a little bit more to maintain. Heat's going to be more, cooling it's going to be more, electricity's going to be more, and so on and so forth. But all those things need to be factored in, of course, if you're going to pool in with someone else to purchase a home. Now, some of the other things that this report is showing that are quite interesting, things that the sellers are saying. Sellers are reporting that they're finding that the pool of buyers has shrunk. They're willing to negotiate a little bit more than they have in the past, understanding that interest rates are higher, and they're also looking at the pricing of their homes. We've started to see some prices drop in some areas, and I think that's because the inventories have been so low that there's competition out there for the small pool of buyers that may have the ability to buy a home. So sellers are looking to address that. When a buyer is looking for a house, there's a lot of different considerations that they take into what they're thinking about. And how do they start searching for a home? Well, the highlight report is showing that most people still look for a home via the internet. A good percentage of people will use a realtor, and other people will find a home through a referral. In other words, a friend of a friend or a family member tells them about a house that's up for sale. They're still looking to finance the home, and this is a challenge, as I've mentioned earlier, with down payment and interest costs. Financing, though, seems to be the main way that buyers are purchasing a house. There is a small percentage of folks, though, that do have the ability to buy a home for cash. And this is why pricing becomes so important for the sellers. You don't want to overprice your home. Your home has to be priced in such a situation where it's going to appraise for its value and a buyer is going to be able to obtain a mortgage, or a buyer who's willing to pay cash believes that they're going to get a value for the cash that they're going to pay to buy that home. Let's take a quick look at this second presentation that just shows you some more highlights in the report. I always like to mention here on the Real Estate Show what this report comes out to saying when it talks about the search process and does a buyer or a seller feel they need to use a realtor. Now, again, this report is put out by the National Association of Realtors. Now, statistically, they're showing that over 86% of the buyers and sellers out there prefer to use a professional realtor when it comes to purchasing or selling a home. There is a small percentage of folks that are selling a home that will try and sell it on their own, but those successful numbers are kind of skewed. And what I mean by that is usually when a seller is selling a house on their own, they're not selling it to someone they don't know. It's usually somebody that they know or someone in the family that's purchasing the home or someone that has already said to them that I will buy your home should you ever decide to sell it. So the numbers are kind of interesting to look at when it comes to that. You're not finding that a lot of for sale by owners are being successful in just putting their house on the market and attracting a buyer. That's where the realtors come in. Most other people are saying that realtors tend to help them not only sell or buy a home, but take a lot of the tediousness of the process out. In other words, by hiring a professional realtor, the realtor's familiar with the whole transaction from beginning to end and can kind of guide them and direct them through that transaction to make it as smooth as possible. Now, overall, what is the rating on the process of purchasing a home? Well, even though the interest rates are high, even though prices have been high, even though the economy is a little strong, the ability to buy a home or the process to buy a home really hasn't changed all that much. Now, it is true the banks out there have gotten a little creative as far as the mortgages that they're offering. It is true that there's a little bit more flexibility with the sellers when it comes to the pricing of their home. And it is true that buyers are getting a little more creative with coming up with the monies in order to buy a home. But overall, the process, the transaction, is still the same. Let's take a look at this final presentation, and I'll be back with some final comments on what this report is telling me. Every year when the National Association of Realtors comes out with their highlight report, you can read the report and kind of get a sense as to where the market is going. Is the market going to remain a seller's market? Is it going to become a buyer's market? Is it going to crash? What's kind of going to happen? And although housing purchases have slowed down tremendously because of the increase in interest rates, we are still selling homes. Homes will still sell. It's taking a little longer, again, because the buyer pool is so small and the inventory is so small. We're finding that houses are not turning as fast as they did because people are taking more time to make the decision, to make that buying decision. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
The water's warm at Jaws Pond, and we're stocked full of treasures. Big or small, we buy it all. We buy and sell fast rides, power tools, vintage guitars, and so much more. Walk the plank in style with our fine jewelry, diamonds, and watches. Plus, we have a huge selection of the latest video games, including the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Jaws Pond, conveniently located on Meriden Waterbury Turnpike in Southington and West Main Street in New Britain.